Welcome to Families in Action on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. I'm Cary Quashen, along with my co-host, Michael Duarte, which is sitting right next to me. Hi, Michael.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. You know, it's a long, fun, nice, calm weekend.
Was it? That's excellent.
Yeah,
That's excellent.
It's almost too calm. When
Too
the
calm?
holidays come, it just gets calm. We don't get many calls. Things slow down. Come January, things explode.
The gate opens.
The gate opens. Nobody wants to go to treatment. Nobody wants to go to a psych hospital. Nobody wants to do any of that during the holidays. Well, I wouldn't say nobody. I mean, to tell you the truth, I was just telling you before we do all our other stuff, this Christmas Eve, I will have 35 years clean and sober.
Wow.
So I got sober on Christmas Eve.
That's a big deal.
So people do get sober during the holidays. It can be done. But, you know, just to take a step backwards, Families in Action is brought to you by your local hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS, which we've been on the air over 13 years.
That's a big wow.
Is that a big wow?
It is.
13 years. And I can count on two hands how many times I missed in 13 years. Pretty
Really?
Incredible. Yeah.
It is. That is.
I didn't miss really hardly any Mondays.
Although you do try to make me nervous by showing up just, a minute and a half before the show goes.
I always do that. But I'll tell you, we've had many hosts. We've had Stephanie. Which I love you, Steph, if you're listening. We've had Bob Sherritts.
Bob, great.
We've had Dell. I think that's Mary. And Michael.
Oh.
So I went through hosts. I hope I don't chase you away like I chased the rest of them. Hey, I love you here.
Well, yeah, this is great. I love doing the show with you.
Awesome.
You must have been really hard on the others because
I must have been.
It's fun for me.
I know they all went away. And so hard on Steffi, she moved out of state.
She did. She completely left the state and said, "The heck with you."
She just moved to Texas. Oh, well, hey, what are you going to do? Also, Families in Action is brought to you by Action Family Counseling, which is a full range of treatment centers, from intensive outpatient programs to residential to regular outpatient and interventions and all kinds of stuff. And the Action Foundation, well, I'll let you talk about that.
Well, as I always mention, this thing that you have coming up that everybody is just waiting for, the experience.
You know, that's really exciting. It's exciting, but sadly exciting, because what it is, it's a moving memorial for people that lost their children or family members to substance abuse, and that's kind of a lead way into where I want to go right now. Anyways, if you've been watching the news, it's really sad. I put on headline news or CNN or whatever it is every morning, MSP, whatever it is. I don't really care. I just put on whatever's on. I want to know what's happening, and you see all these horrible things. I put on Channel whatever news last night, and everything's bad. Somebody got killed, somebody did this, somebody's going into rehab, somebody's that. There's nothing really exciting. And then I was watching the news today, and this sad thing happened in Las Vegas. You all saw that. Almost 40 people got mowed over by a lady. One person died, and it's on every news thing there is. And then our show, I want you to talk about that. Give me some statistics. This is insane. I mean, it really is.
From the action file, Cary, and you're right, this is insane. And if people really thought about this for 2 seconds, they get really angry.
I am, and I'm trying to figure out why it's not on every time I turn on the news.
It should be. Drug overdose deaths reach an all-time high. Now, we're going to put this in perspective. This was a CNN report. Despite efforts to fight the opioid epidemic, deaths from drug overdose reach an all-time high. Now, this is 2014 we're talking about.
These are brand new statistics.
Right.
And all statistics usually are up to 5 years old, but it's such an epidemic, and it's so deadly right now that statistics are coming out right now.
This is from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Last year, well, this would be 2014, over 47,000 people died from drug overdoses, 1.5 times greater than the number killed in car crashes. Opioids are involved in 61% of all drug overdose deaths. Cary, that's crazy. Now, let me just put a little bit more energy on that.
Almost 50,000 lives are lost every year.
Since 2000, opioid drug overdoses deaths have risen
200%.
To nearly 500,000 lives have been lost to opioid. Why am I having trouble saying opioid? Opioid
it's
drug
a tough
overdoses
one.
Since then.
Can you all say opioids?
Say it three
it's
times
a rough
fast.
one.
Forget it.
Yeah, no.
Anyway, that's insane. 500,000 lives since 2000. Come on. People should be, standing out on their porches screaming and yelling, saying, I've had enough of this.
But you know what? People look at overdoses. When you think overdoses, you go way back to the 60s, 70s, 80s, right, where everybody, people are overdosing. It's all heroin and all that kinds of stuff. Wrong. That's not what's happening today. Heroin overdoses only account for a very small amount of that 50,000 deaths. The rest of it are pills. And who dies from pills? Your neighbors, your sons, your daughters, your husbands, your wives, your parents, your grandparents. That's the people that we're losing right now to opioids. So it's something that we all better pay real attention to. And I've been, this is all I do. I've been in treatment now for 30-something years, right? But I don't know anybody that doesn't know somebody affected by drugs or alcohol. I don't know anybody that doesn't know somebody.
Well, this report was saying that the data finds that deaths from natural opiates such as morphine, codeine, and semi-synthetic prescription painkillers like Oxycontin, well, apparently I can't say that one either, and hydrocodone jumped 10% from 2013 to 2014. Deaths from heroin overdoses rose 26%.
Right.
Wow, that's a lot.
It's going up because, but you go on. I have a reason for that.
Well, the biggest increase in deaths was from synthetic opioids, which went up 80%. Okay? An increase in synthetic opioid deaths coincided with increased reports by law enforcement of illicitly manufactured fentanyl, which we've talked about here before.
Right. Well, it's so much stronger than anything else on the market. And what's going on is people don't know.
And they went on to say that because oxycodone and morphine are derived from the same poppy plants as heroin, most heroin users initially start by using prescription painkillers.
And we're treating today, the whole thing of drug addiction is different. Because used to be, when you talk about heroin and overdoses, you thought about that person sitting in the alley or in the bathroom sneaking around, sticking needles in their arm. It's way different today. It's not that. The people we're treating are your neighbors, are professional people that are using heroin. Because what happened is a lot of things happened, but really what happened is people aren't shooting heroin. They're not using it intravenously like they used to. They're smoking it now. So instead of being that dope fiend hiding in the corner, it's almost like a designer drug now. It's everywhere, and people of all walks of life are now using it. And here's what happens. The other thing that's happening in drug rehabilitation centers is we're treating more accidental addicts than we have ever treated before. What does an accidental addict mean? It's pretty simple. We're treating people that are hooked up now on opiates, either heroin or pills. Painkillers that have no track record. No history of substance abuse. What happens is you get an operation. Something happens, you get a toothache, whatever, you break your bones, and all of a sudden they give you these pills. Now, you're in the hospital, you leave the hospital, they have you on some kind of morphine or Demerol, you leave the hospital, boom, you're still in pain. So you need to take these pills. Problem is, these pills are not even close to as strong as what you're getting in the hospital when you're intravenously got dope coming in your system.
Because you're in the hospital and they can monitor you.
Right, and there's scales from 1 to 10, and nobody wants to feel pain. So how you feeling? A scale from 1 to 10, and it's a 10 because you don't want to hurt, but you can't talk if it's a 10. You can't even walk if it's a 10. So they're giving you all these medications that really get you your body the immunity goes up. You need more.
And we have to say that Pam Geyer was here from Henry Mayo Newhall Hospital talking about how the hospital's cutting down on that they're really getting serious.
Hospitals are really paying attention. Well, it's an epidemic. We're losing 50,000 people a year. We better. Yeah, hospitals and everyone better pay attention. Doctors everywhere better pay attention. So what happens is you leave the hospital and you get a prescription for, let's say, oxycodone or Vicodin. It says 1 every 4 hours. 1 every 4 hours is not going to do it. So now it's 2 or 3 every 4 hours. And what happens with these pills, they're really good at taking pain away. Problem is, they're really good at taking pain away for a short period of time. After a short period of time, we get physically dependent on these pills. Right. So all of a sudden we think, well, maybe I can stop taking them now. Maybe my surgery's better and I'm feeling better. As soon as we stop taking them, our bodies start hurting because we're now addicted to the drug. So what does our head do? It tricks us to believe we're still in pain. So we need to take more. So before you know it, you got a dependency. And here's what happens to people on dependency for pills. Now it's not 1 every 4 hours, and it's not even 4 every 4 hours. It's 4 every hour. We're getting people in treatment now that are taking 30 plus pills a day. That would kill somebody. But taking 30 plus pills a day, they're addicted to these pills. Problem with that is now how you get so many pills.
Yeah, they're pill shopping.
They're pill shopping. So you go to your doctor says no, so you go to another doctor. The good thing about what's going on in the system is doctors can check. They can go on the internet and find out, well, Mike, you just had a prescription from Dr. Roberts. I just picked a name.
Yeah.
3 days ago. I can't give you another prescription.
And law enforcement now is watching that very carefully. So doctors have to be very careful what they're doing.
Yeah. Are you kidding? The DEA is going to doctors' offices now and saying you're writing too many prescriptions. What's going on? They're checking it out. So doctors are being super careful. So Mike is going to all these doctors and they're not giving him the pills anymore. He goes to the ER and now he's blacklisted from the ER, which we do at Henry Mayo. There's a list. We know who the addicts are and who's coming in for it, and they're not getting anything. So where is Mike going to go get these pills? He's going to go to a dealer. Problem is they're super expensive. So you go to this dealer and they want all this money and there's no way you can afford that. I don't care who you are. So what do? The dealer says to you, you know what? If you use some of this, it's heroin. It's like you said, from the same plant. It's a whole lot cheaper. You don't have to shoot it, smoke it. And you're not going to go through all those withdrawals. So now we have so many professional people that are in treatment now for pill abuse, obviously, and even heroin abuse now. So the face of an addict has changed dramatically.
It sure has, because that old stereotypical image is as you said, somebody in the alleyway trying to hide from everybody and trying to get that spoon and all that other stuff that they needed, and not a pretty picture, but it's not like that.
No, it's really pretty scary, and the scariest part is, of course we want better and stronger drugs. We do. The system needs it. We don't want people to feel pain. The other problem is you can't see pain. When somebody walks into a doctor, everybody wants to blame the doctors. I don't blame the doctors. When somebody walks in the doctor and starts crying and screaming, they're in pain. What is the doctor going to do? He can't see it. So they want to treat your pain.
Right.
So we're, again, so many, and there are some doctors that take advantage of it, of course, as in general. But there's so much going on right now when it comes to substance abuse. When I see these numbers, it doesn't surprise me. I've been screaming this for 5 years.
Sure.
For 5 years, I've been screaming. It's off the hook. People are going to die.
Over 47,000 in 2014. So here we are at the end of 2015. What do you think? You think we're pushing 50,000?
No. We're above that.
We're above 50,000.
Yeah. But you see, these are accidental drug overdoses, right?
Yeah.
But let's add suicide to this. How many people do you think that commit suicide do it when they're high?
Well, Cary, we know in the behavioral health unit that every other person that comes in took pills to try to end their life.
Yeah. So, we can go on and on and on with this, and the numbers will get greater and greater and greater. And I'll tell you what, as you know, because we run a psych hospital, I'm the executive director, and you're the marketing guy. The people come in there because what? because they tried to kill themselves. Lots because they're addicted.
Right.
So,
well over half of them are
so these
addicted.
numbers dramatically are low. When you say 50,000, 47,000, these are low numbers. These are numbers that we know, but what about all the others?
But we know that it's jumping a lot faster now because of what you've been talking about, because it's easier to get. There's not a big stigma attached to heroin like it used to be.
No, it's sad. It's really sad.
It's sad, and people should be very upset about it. Because guess what? Guess who's paying for this?
No, we all are. How much money does that cost us?
What was that? $231 billion with a B per year. And that means every man, woman, and child in America has to cough up with $2,000 a year just to keep up with these numbers.
Yeah, and we're just talking about opioids right now. Let's go to benzos. That's one of the most prescribed drug in America. And when it comes to treatment, I mean, Vicodin, Oxycontin, heroin, somebody that's detoxing that drug, they're going to feel like they're going to feel like they're dying, but they're not. They won't die coming off that drug. Benzos, alcohol, soma, those kinds of things. Well, let's just stick with benzos and alcohol. That's very dangerous. That's deadly. Alcohol, if 20% of people coming off of alcohol that are alcohol dependent, physically dependent on alcohol, that don't get medical attention will die. So if we put 5 people in this room and they were completely dependent, one of those people would not, 2 of those people wouldn't die, would not make it out of that room. They would die. So we're just talking benzos.
And we get calls all the time from people that are in trouble.
Oh, yeah.
In trouble. And they say, well, I started fooling around with it. Well, it's nothing to fool around with. It's just sticking your hand in a fire is not very smart.
No, you'll get burned. Even I always say, if you play with matches, you're going to get burned anyways.
Absolutely.
Eventually, and people. Well, the bad thing is, it's almost changing the way we treat people now in treatment. Because used to be, and it still is, we don't want, if somebody's coming into treatment, we want them off of everything. That means no booze, no recreational pot, no recreational cocaine, no heroin, no pills, no nothing. If you're not using anything, you're not going to have a problem with drugs, right? It's going to work out. Nowadays, we almost have to change that. It's still, we don't want you using anything, but if you start using again, and that sounds terrible, but it's really it's where we're at today, because most of these people that I go to funerals for that are dying from opiates were sober for a while, decided to use again, and used too much, and lost their lives. And here's why. The more we use drugs, the more we physically need more to get high. Right. When we stay sober and we start using again, we don't need that much anymore. Our bodies don't need, our bodies don't need that much anymore. Our minds do.
But our brain doesn't know that.
Right. So the addict starts using and doesn't quite feel where they want to be. The feeling isn't there. So what they have to do is use just a little bit more to get that feeling. It's still not there. So just a tad bit more, and what happens? The bodies can't handle it. The bodies shut down. They end up in ERs. They end up dead. And then these numbers go screaming.
Right.
So it's changing the whole makeup of everything right now. So it's just terribly sad, Mike. Well, let's finish this when we take us on break. I'm getting disgusted.
Yeah, we'll finish it up, and then we'll start talking about, we got to talk about that drinking around the holidays.
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll be right back with more Families in Action right here on KHTS AM 1220 right after these messages.